Okay, hello everybody. This is Surayya from Purposeful Professional Media, and we are back with an amazing guest. Today's guest is young, but she's a multi-hyphenate. Like I'm talking artist, engineering student, producer, writer. This young woman does it all. I'm very, very excited because y'all know I'm excited to always talk to the Renaissance guest.
Yes. Hi, it's Ijeoma.
Ijeoma.
Yeah, thank you for having me here today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the guests are you want to introduce yourself or tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, I do a bunch of things like s- vocal lessons. That's like the newest thing. But I've loved film for a very long time. So I'm a filmmaker, an author. Um, I call myself the colorful the colorful. I can't speak right now. The girl that's colorful with the neo soul. So I felt like people call me like the vitamin C or whatever, but I think in whatever I do in all my projects, I just show who I am and show what I could do, and I love what I do. Yeah.
That's amazing. So people call you the girl that's colorful with the neo soul. Did I hear that right?
I
That's
actually call myself that, but people call me vitamin C because I energize people's life.
okay, vitamin
Just
C. And that first of all, both are amazing. And I was just telling somebody that I feel like neo soul is the soundtrack to my 20s.
wow.
Honest- I never thought I would need it, but like so I'm 23 now. And at this point in my life, like if it's not neo soul, I can't relate to the song. So it's funny that you say that because I was just thinking that something very similar the other day. But one of the things we like to do with all the guests is we like to talk about a social topic or like a pop culture topic relevant to your experience. And I figured that because you want to be, well, not want to be, you operate at this intersection of art, tech, all different types of things. You probably are familiar with what's happening in entertainment, especially with child stars, maybe from just a social media perspective. But I think for some weird reason, when we were doing our pre call, I was like, okay, for some reason, I feel like Quiet on the Set would be a great pop culture topic. But particularly like the safety of young people in artistic and creative spaces, given that you do exist in these spaces as well, even if they are you creating your own. Hopefully you'll be someone's exec or someone's creative director, or you'll be in these spaces even more. So I wanted to have a conversation to see, like, hey, where's your head at with some of these topics? So my first question for you is as someone who is like aspiring to produce in the film industry or even starting to produce your own films, like when you heard of Quiet on the Set, like what feelings or thoughts came up for you?
Yeah, I think I like realize there's so many things that happen in the background with child stars. Like, back in the day when I was, I guess, younger. But Hannah Montana and most of the Rayleigh Place, you'd see them like on the carpet for Teen Choice Awards or Kids Choice Awards, and you would not have no idea that there's a lot going on. And it's so like sad to think about that there was a lot of turmoil. They give so much happiness to so many kids at that time. Uh, but like there's so many things that go unsaid that leave child stars unprotected. And and it's especially with people with authority, it's like, hey, you're not gonna talk about it, and everyone's just like, he's the man with the money. Well, I guess you could say it's mostly like, well, it was with the Nickelodeon, I guess it was a man, but it could be a woman too, that like takes charge and tells everyone, don't tell anything about it. So it's kind of sad to see that um play out and learn about more about that right on set and Child Star.
Yeah, that's great. I just think 100%. You're 100% right that they gave us so much happiness growing up, and we saw them like they were the teen idols, the kid idols, like everything that they touched, we wanted to buy, whether it's like, oh, now they have a doll available, or now they have another like Hannah Montana wig
Yeah.
and sneaker set or something like that, or the backpack, like especially in the early 2000s. These people were more than just stars, they were brands. They were like mini icons and everything they touched sold. So to think that there were so many adults like making money off of them, but like at the same time taking their childhood away in more ways than one, not giving them the chance to really feel like they're children, um, how committing abusive acts against them. I mean, all of it was like, it was a lot. Now I gotta relive my childhood with this added. That's kinda how I felt about it.
Yeah. No, it was yeah, it's kinda just so, like, really dark, and especially with now, like, YouTube, which is, like, the next form of, like, children being online and sharing their lives. Definitely I've been seeing some laws that are being, like, now passed to, like, get children the money that they were earning while as a child star on YouTube. Um, but yeah, it's kinda sad, and, you definitely wanna as, like, I guess me, the filmmaker aspires to be that, like, executive or whatever, it's definitely important to, like, take a look at these things and sure, even with just people I work with now, I'm not taking advantage of them or, making them feel uncomfortable on set or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, tell me about the work that you do in creative and film, and like, how do you, as a young Black woman, plan to change the narrative around safety for creative talent in the industry?
Yeah, so, the work I currently do is, I guess the behind the scenes, I, like, write my own scripts, and I do workshops and do that. I did, produce and direct and write a short film, that actually showcased at, like, 2 film festivals, where they were small local ones, but that was cool, but, uh, I I definitely learned a lot from that one because we were on a tight schedule, and so maybe I did was a little bit rushing people, I will say, but I guess that's what, like, indie films with, like, no budget probably go through, but I definitely, I think what I want to work on and hopefully have in play is just making sure there's, like, this collective community-ness, that's not a word, but with, the crew members, the people that I worked with, so that it feels like a little family on set. Because 'cause I've definitely heard stories of people, having a set where it doesn't feel like family and it feels stoked, and who wants to have, like, memories of working on a cool project, it's just horrible people you're working with, so making I create that community using my vitamin C energy to help create that community and, um, making sure people know they can come and talk to me about things that may happen behind the scenes that doesn't get forward to me.
Yeah, I think I really do love that answer. And the reason why I asked that question is because I want to highlight for the listeners that when we, as young people, specifically young Black people, young Black women, come into these spaces, we bring our own understanding of the need to be extra careful around safety, around representation, around racism, sexism, like the need to really create a safe space. So I'm grateful that you're already thinking about this. And I'm sure, like, 2 film festivals is nothing to laugh about, especially, like, as a early filmmaker. I'm sure you will continue to go on, to do great things and take that mindset with you of trying to create that environment on set where people do feel comfortable speaking up if they see something. They do feel comfortable talking to people, reaching out, because a lot of this happens in isolation, and people are quiet because they don't know who to trust or who to talk to. So I really do love that. But one thing that I noticed in spite of TikTok, and it's actually I was checking out the data, I think it was through Business Insider, and they talked about many Gen Zers not wanting to go into media and entertainment anymore and wanting to go into more stable industries. So we could say healthcare, government, etc. So my question for you is the widespread revelations of industry power players abusing their power has influenced many Gen Zers away from media and entertainment and into more stable industries such as healthcare, government, etc. And stable as in, like, I guess we could say not as competitive, not as controversial at times. Uh, what do you think of this shift? And do you think that Gen Z will be the ones to make the entertainment and media industry change?
Um, okay, sorry, could you repeat, like, the last part? Sorry, no, the first part of what you said.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think of the shift of Gen Zers, especially not wanting to work in, we could say, media entertainment anymore and wanting more stable jobs in
Mm,
healthcare, government, education, etc. And do you think that Gen Z's desire to, well, lack of desire to be in the industry will make the entertainment industry change?
Mm, I would say, I think the shift is, I mean, it's warranted. I mean, people want money, and the things being created, sometimes being creative does not get you money. Um, and yeah, you can also earn lots of money and then put that money towards your creative desires. That's like, I guess, a new path that people why at least I was like, oh, maybe I can do this for a couple of years and then I break off. But I think it's warranted. People want to survive, and no one wants to like be living out their creative dreams, just feeling that like they're not surviving. So there's some things that need to be, I guess, sacrificed. But it's so sad to say sacrifice because it's just like just my talent is in this area because you're not paying me well in my own talent. But anyway, and then for your second part of the question, do I think this will change the entertainment industry? No, I don't think so because there's always going to still be people that go down a different path than the rest of some other people, and that may be a direct path into Hollywood or working, a part-time job, but also do your acting gigs. So I don't think so. But I do think like when you see like the Writers Guild and other associations in Hollywood just right now taking that step so that if that were to happen, like the ecosystem and the jobs like die out, that you still that the companies don't go straight to AI. Like that's what those associations are doing, and I think that's important. But no, I don't think I feel like it'll be a long time for the entertainment industry to change. I mean, it took them Halle Berry is still this one person to get that. I think it's an Oscar. Could be wrong, but she's the only Black woman to get that, and there's been so many amazing performances after her. But it'll take some time. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's definitely going to take some time. I think that the shift away from media and entertainment is partly alluded to what you talked about, which is that people realize that they can fund their own creative dreams until it becomes a main thing. So a lot of people go into healthcare and government, and then we'll see them like moonlight as influencers, content creators, writing their own scripts on the weekend, etc. So because the internet has democratized who can be a creator, anyone can be a creator. And if the creativity is good enough, Hollywood will come knocking on their door versus the reverse. I think that it's put more power into people's hands to do what's best for them. But I still do think there's like, I don't want to say the starving artist will never die, but I still do think there are some people who they're so creative that not being in their gift is
Mhm.
like it kills them. Like I think of like Issa Rae and like how she did a crowdfund to start Awkward Black Girl. She could have gotten a corporate job. She could have done the thing that everyone else did, but I think she felt like, man, even if I'm broke, like I'm young and I'm gonna die for my craft, literally, like live off of crowdfund, live off of my little savings, do what I need to do. So I still do see the creative spirit of being uncomfortable for my talent, but I also do see this disillusionment with it as well because we're realizing, okay, like there's not just one way to be a creative. Like once again, back when Issa started, Awkward Black Girl, it was, I don't know, like people weren't doing the
Mhm.
content the way that they're doing it
Yeah,
now.
they
Like there was
were.
no TikTok, Instagram was not popping like that. Like now, like people have so many options to put their voice out there, put their likeness out there, put their scripts, their short films out there. So I
Mhm.
think we're starting to realize do what's best for you and don't make anybody feel like you have to be uncomfortable for your dream. Much
Everyone was
simpler.
popping. Like I guess you could think about like the Tumblr era where Frank Ocean and all the under young rap they like were like that was their time. Like now Tumblr is like, okay, when are you gonna find the new you're not gonna because it's like that was the beginning of the era. Like so it's like I
Yeah.
need to find myself now at the beginning of an era and that's like TikTok. But I'm just like oh,
I feel like we can get into that we can get into that because I feel like now, um, people when we think of like Tumblr and what was done on there, even what was done on YouTube, how people were discovered through YouTube
yeah,
back then, production quality is what people today would say is too low, but it really was about the talent.
yeah.
It looked like it was filmed through an iPhone, but the storylines held us. Like everything held us. Today, even if you wanna be an Instagram comedian or you wanna do short films, you need a whole production. You need like the standards have become so much higher for what gets noticed and what the platforms even promote. So I think that they're, yeah, like they were the pioneers of this like digital first discovery. But now it takes a little bit more effort to get into the spotlight and to get noticed. So I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
Yeah, and also, like, going back to what you by the way, I love Issa Rae, so, like, there's that was no shade to her. I love, that she was able to do that, and, but going back to what you were saying, about, uh what were you saying? Actually just blanked out. You were talking about, like, Issa Rae, like, oh, like, she would probably like a corporate job versus,
Hmm.
like, yeah. Like, I remember, like, Thames, the singer, was talking about how I think she was doing, like, IT stuff or whatever, and she was like, "I felt like I was gonna, like, die, in the job, and, like, I just can't do it anymore." So, like, I had to reach out to people on Instagram and be able to, find a way to learn how to produce my own music and stuff, and, like, that need of, like, "I can't do this anymore," like, really does push, some artists out of, like, where what they thought they would do for the rest of their life. Yeah.
Yeah, because some of it is spiritual, and we're gonna
Mhm.
get into that as we get into your journey. Okay, so this is the podcast for the people, your career, the culture, and we tend to break up this episode into three parts. People focusing more on like your journey, who you are outside of the work that you do. Career, as in the steps you've taken, the fact that careers aren't linear, like careers are changing, like our identities, and then culture, as in the impact you want to have, the cultures you want to impact, the conversations you want to put out into the world. We tend to talk about, the macro and the micro here. So I want to get started with who you are as a person. So one of the things that I really appreciate about you as I was like doing the episode sketch, I really appreciate that you are artist to the fullest. Like I think some people choose a domain and they stick to that. Like, oh, I'm just this person and I'm just going to be this theater kid and I'm just going to ride that in the sunset. But it seems to me like from vocal lessons to an art exhibit to writing shows, like which artistic medium is your favorite and why?
Oh, my favorite. Okay. Well, let me just say, like, after I wrote my novel, I was like, I realized I hate writing.
Oh, wow.
So, that one's, like, not really my favorite medium. I think it would have to be, film. It definitely would be film, but, like, film in the package that I get to, like, work the script, but I
Mhm.
maybe co-direct it, um, and I'm also I don't really have to be the producer. There's plenty of films out there where, like, someone's not the producer, but they do all other things, but I think it would have to be film, but, like, film takes, like, a lot of work, especially to make, like, a really top quality, maybe indie film, that even takes a lot of work. So it's like telling my mind, like, just get just find the people, find the grants, you're gonna be fine, and go along with that. Yeah, but film would definitely be mine. I love the visuals, I love the story behind it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm curious, what made you realize you didn't like writing in book form, but you liked writing for the screen? What are the differences in both
Mm.
avenues for you?
Yeah, I feel like for writing, it's just like, he said, she said, they go off, blah, blah,
Mm,
blah. He said, they said, I don't maybe it's just me, my perception, but like, I'm even taking like a nonfiction writing class, and there's also still dialogue in nonfiction writing. I was like, damn. Oh, okay. But I think with fiction writing, there's for me, it feels like there's a lot of that. I feel like there's some of the books I've read in like the past, like Their Eyes for Watching God, Fahrenheit 451, even like a book of I think there's a lot of flowery language that I don't know. I guess I just want the story. And I think I wrote like The Beautiful Master Coral a little bit like that. Like I want the story, but there's poetic language. But I feel like my level of poetic language to like, I guess, some other fiction novels on the market today, I guess, is it's more like a subpar. And I'm not sure, but with screenwriting, I feel like that is I don't know, I guess I'm more in control of that. I get to see I don't know, I get to see characters moving through the page and like you have like 100 pages. So for me, it's easier to see when I was doing my book. It was really like writing different scenes and seeing how they could be added together. And then adding more scenes in between. Screenwriting, I love that I could come up with a title, come up with characters, a storyline, give them a beginning scene, and see where it goes from there on the page. Yeah, it's something about the visuals I can see better on screenwriting. It doesn't evolve like he said, she said. It just evolves their name, the dialogue, another person's name, dialogue, action scene, and then you just go there.
Yeah, I feel you on that because so I identify as a writer, but a nonfiction writer because I admire fiction writers. It was the dialogue for me. Like I couldn't do it at all. It was the dialogue for me. I couldn't do it because for me, like I'm very like, here's what I believe. Here's what I want to say. Let me just say what I want to say. Da 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 da. Versus like having to create a world. And people have challenged me to write a fiction book, and I feel like I might write maybe one fiction book my entire career because it's gonna take a lot for me to like come up with a story, and it most likely will be my life
Mm,
written as fiction because I don't think I'm that imaginative. I'm no J.K. Rowling when it comes to fiction. Everybody has their own gifts in their own lane, but I think that you're saying something that a lot of writers need to understand, which is that like being a writer is not just about writing. It's also like what style do you like the best? And what you're alluding to is screenwriting having like dialogue and that dialogue feeling more natural than the forced he said, she said. Elizabeth turned around and looked at her mother and like, and you know, I feel like in screenwriting, the actors themselves can fill in the gaps with their body language and they can do particular things. So you only really focus on the entire scene versus the details. You have to get very granular with fiction writing. So yeah, that's real. Cause I think a lot of people think, oh, you're a writer, you're gonna like every style of writing. Like some people are journalists. They like reporting and talking about like things that are happening in the world. Some people are essayists. Other
mm.
people are fiction, right? Like writing is such a diverse discipline. Some people are poets. That you have to find what writing style suits you the best. And I would say lean into that versus forcing yourself in other categories that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Yeah, essay. I definitely have a couple of essays I want to write about my life, but I'm learning again in my nonfiction class that involves dialogue. So it's just like leaving that in there and not getting angry as I type.
Yeah, absolutely. Big facts, super facts. So I want to know, I listed off all the activities that you do and you talked about some of the activities that you do. I want to know, like, do you ever get people telling you that you're doing too much? I get this all the time as Surayya the Sagittarius. I get this all the time that like I'm doing too much. I am too much. I'm living, existing too much. But do you ever get people telling you that you're doing too much? And if so, like, how do you ignore these voices and keep developing new skills across domains?
Yes, I feel for you because I'm also Sagittarius and people say that to me all the time. And it's just like, you're a Cancer, babe. What do you just sit there? I know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know I get that a lot. I think, especially when I was working on my novel, people were like, "You're a workaholic. Like, you have to go out." I'm like, I'm just working. I'm doing something that I love, and like, I remember I used to like,
Mhm.
I used to play like this video of Kim Kardashian telling Kourtney Kardashian, "If you had a business, you would know what it's like to." What I was like so in deep in like let me cook. Like, let me cook. You
Mm.
can cook too, but you're not cooking right now, I guess, as much as me, which is why you think I'm a workaholic. But if you were cooking, you understand what I'm cooking is also similar to what. But yeah, no, I can't help doing and being myself and like loving a bunch of things that I love to do and like being serious about it because I think it's very for me to like become serious about things. When I get serious, I would like to be serious about that and no one call me out to like come outside with you for like dinner and party. Like I'm doing something and I want to get it done, so please leave me alone. Um, that's my I guess people's version of me doing too much is being focused. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that it's odd because the creatives that I know that I like, the real creatives, are very focused. And I feel like there's this like stereotype that the movies show of a creative that, okay, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna smoke, party, come back, and like
Mhm.
write the whole song. Well, that is a minority of creatives are focused people because
Yeah.
creativity is a serious like it of course you approach it with a playful manner. And I think that might also confuse people because it's like you're working hard, but you're still kind of playing around, but you're working, like you're focused and you know, like this is my time to write, this is my time to do something. So it requires a lot of focus. I also get the workaholic comments and I laugh because I'm like, y'all need to find something that is your thing and that
Exactly.
you're passionate about and that you want to see succeed so bad that you're willing to work really hard. And what I even say is like, I haven't studied burnout, but I think you are less likely to burn out when you are engaged in something
Interesting.
fully, emotionally, spiritually, etc. And for many people, creativity is not just a structured process, but like where there's an output, but it's a spiritual process. You're looking within yourself, you're thinking about your life, it can be very soothing to be in the creative process and to be under a creative guise. So what I will say is people don't understand. Like they
They
don't
don't.
understand what it's like to be multifaceted. And I feel like that's amazing that
Mm,
you can balance all those talents. And it just shows me like your curiosity and your creativity because that's really what the creative spirit is. It can't be contained. It really
yeah.
cannot be contained.
Yeah. No, I remember at one time when I was telling someone about this, and she was like backing me up. Like, there's this song by like Cash Doll called "Doing." I forgot what it's called, but I was like, she was like, "You're not doing enough." I'm like, "Yeah, that's like my playlist of my life. You're not doing." But no, yeah, I totally hear it. There's something else I wanted to say, but I just forgot about it. But yeah, yeah, that song.
Yeah, I think that it's funny. Yeah, because Cash Off music is a whole nother conversation, but what I will say is, no, I there's this feeling of no, I understand what you're saying, like, as a creative person, there's this feeling of, like, I'm not doing enough, and then there's also this feeling like
Mm,
I'm doing too much, but what I
mm,
will say is, as somebody who does this work, like, I always tell people, like, as a creative, your output is proportionate to your ideas. You have to have
mm,
ideas. You gotta create that focus space, and people are gonna think you're crazy for like having a specific space where you write or a specific space where you do, you work on your
yeah,
stuff or et cetera. People are going to think you're crazy for that, but you have to have that space. You have to have that focus space and that focus environment to create at a high level. So I totally understand that. But better yet, right? My next question, you originally wanted to be a fashion designer. So it seemed like there was always something brewing that like, "Hey, you need to do something with all the ideas you have, with all the visions you have, you need to do something," right? Were you always creatively gifted and talented growing up? Like, was that always there for you? And how did the process of creating, like, feel for you back then?
I mean, I so I was part of I guess it was a flex during that time. I don't know if I'm not sure if it's a flex still of people. I was like part of the talented and gifted program. I'm not sure how I got there, but I just remember us building bridges. I don't know what
Mm,
that means, but it was I thought I would be doing something else. But I definitely remember I have some like core childhood memories of me like making up songs and like writing it in like this little journal when I was like probably like 10 or something. So I think I definitely has always been with me. I feel like I like to think it's just always I don't know, like when you have like a feeling like you've always meant to like be creative and like I wonder like if like Toni Morrison and Octavia Butler, if they're like writers too that like very successful. But I do wonder like as a little child, they have like this inkling and where they're like writing and creating up stories and like sharing it to their family. Because I feel like that was a little bit of me. I would write and like when I was with my Barbie dolls, I would come up with songs and stories for them. And I definitely remember this a memory where I took this art class in middle school and I designed like a stapler and I was like really happy because like I didn't know I could draw a stapler so well. And I guess it was probably bad at the time, but it looked amazing to me. And I showed it to my dad and then he was like, you know, you there's drawing in engineering. People draw in engineering for engineering things. And I was just like,
yeah. Oh my god.
I just told you a stapler, bruh. Like, just okay, put the stapler away. I was like, and then I think there was another moment where I was dancing in front because it was Dance Moms. Like, it was the Dance Moms
Mhm.
era for me. Like when I was little, I was watching Dance Moms and like probably like dancing from the living room. And I guess my grouchy dad was like, you're not gonna dance for a living, right? And then left. I was just like, ever since
Mm,
that day, I would never like show you my artistic talents and ever. If I show up with a Grammy one day on your TV screen, that's how you're gonna know because you can't like yeah, but like I feel like there's core memories of that with like my arts and involved, but like also determining I think it's better I show less, which is kind of sad. Like show less to your parents because maybe they just really don't get it. But not even
mhm.
just my parents, I think my friends too. Like I realize I think I need to like be in my huddle, develop my idea further and further and further before I show it to people because I think it ruins that magic for me sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking. You're speaking. And I think a lot of people can relate. No, I can relate. A lot of us can relate. Like you gravitate towards things naturally. I was watching an interview and this person talked about who was a 10-year-old you. And the reason why a lot of us are unhappy as adults is because we're not connected to that inner child anymore. And I honestly feel like that's a huge part of it, not to be like pseudo therapist on here, but no, that's a huge part of it. Like, that's a huge part of why we feel the way we feel, like we're not connected to who we were as children. Because as children, we naturally gravitated towards specific things. I think I was listening to Robert Greene, and he writes all those books like 48 Laws of Power. He writes those like books that everybody's quoting, even if they've never read it before. And he was talking about like finding your purpose in life and like you naturally gravitate towards things, like you naturally gravitate towards particular things and you need to lean towards what you naturally gravitate towards. And I think that that's something that I understand in my own life that there are inclinations that we have, there are gifts that we have that, like you're right. If we show people too early, if we show people before we've developed the skill, we might never develop the skill. Think of people who like, they wanted to dance or they wanted to sing and then they sang for somebody who was like, oh, well, that doesn't sound that good. You know, it kills your spirit, especially as a young child. It kills your dream. It makes you feel like it's not possible for you anymore. So I understand exactly what you're saying in that
And then they don't take the vocal lessons and realize everyone can improve their
exactly.
voice.
They don't realize that your fave singer started off just being able to hold a note. They had to learn how to train that
Mm.
instrument. And your voice is an instrument. They have to train the voice. So I think that I don't know, like it's totally something that I do understand a lot, like growing up and being like creatively gifted and having to go through and navigate the ups and downs. You also talked about being in gifted and talented. I was a little urban education minor in college, so I know a little thing or two.
Okay.
Studies show that people who are gifted and talented are multi-hyphenate. So they're naturally very broad versus specific. Some can be very specific, but we can think of like Leonardo da Vinci. We can think of some of the most creative people in the world. They do many different things. And I think that we have to stop making people feel bad for being that way, but
Mhm.
actually understand if you are that way. There's a book that I read. I'll definitely send you the link, Your Great Rainforest Mind. And it talks about having a rainforest mind, having a mind that thrives on challenges, thrives on novelty. And a lot of people who are gifted have those sort of minds. So it's all about embracing who you really are. And I think over time we learn to do that, even if other people think we can't. But you talked about your father, and I got a question about being Nigerian American because I know the listeners want to know. Okay. So, growing up as a Nigerian American, there must have been so many standards and guidelines when it came to mapping out your interests as a teen and a young adult. Like, did your parents always understand that creativity? Like, if so, or if not, how did you manage to honor your creativity in spite of their expectations?
Yeah, I think even when I was writing my novel, I barely told anyone. I probably told 3 or 4 people, and they were never one of them. And it just
Mhm.
because I don't know, I feel like I don't know, since like past memories and like I just like not telling people things and doing it and then like showing you like, hey, I could do this thing. Here it is. And that's how I imagine like the rest of my life going. I don't know, but I think growing up, if it really I don't think I did well, I did art. I had like drawing and painting classes and uh that like showed more my like progression of art. But I don't think I went up to like my parents like, hey, look at this painting I drew or painted because it's whatever. They would see me though, maybe like at 2 a.m. working on like a painting though. So I think they would know. But I remember I did like this portrait of my dad though for like a class and I gave it to him. I was like, "Oh, wow, I love it, IJ. Oh my gosh." I was like, "Do the accent." But yeah, there's probably moments like that. But yeah, I think that those feelings of like them wanting you to do one thing versus another trickles into other things. Like after college, the expectations of you probably living close to home or um like if you wanted to do study abroad, like the countries that you can or cannot go to, I think it
Mm.
ends up trickling into other different things, which is it's just like weird, like that line of like telling your parents, "This is my life, it's not yours," but also honoring them, but also maybe realizing they're wise. But like lately, I just been trusting
Mm.
my intuition and just going with the flow, but making sure I'm giving myself the space to be free and let people know that they cannot control. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, that sounded real, and I had to say that because not Nigerian American, but Jamaican American, and coming from
Mm,
an immigrant background, regardless, right? Your family having emigrated to the United States, it creates a different environment for you
mhm,
psychologically that you grow up under. You feel like you can make very few mistakes because you
mhm,
hear stories of like parents, oh, if I had the resources that you had, if I had the opportunities you had, and all this conversation can lead you away from a creative path. We talked about Issa Rae doing Awkward Black Girl. Issa is half Senegalese. I don't know what her Senegalese side said about it. Like, I don't know if they approved or didn't approve, or she probably faced all of that, like having to deal with, the more traditional mindsets of people, especially given that she went to Stanford University. So there were all these expectations placed on her. But I think that I feel like when you know who you are, you're going to be who you are,
mhm.
regardless. And I think that that's like a stage that you go through in your early 20s. You're probably going through that right now. Like, I know who I am and I'm going to honor my parents where it suits me, but I'm also going to break away when I feel like it's more authentic to me to break away. And it's all love, but you know who you are. You got to be who you are.
Yeah, and especially when they start making plans for you. Like, he was like, "Oh, we're going to Nigeria." I'm like, Did we discuss this together? Like, I'm gonna go."
Mhm.
Like, I also have plans too to travel, but it's so interesting. It's just like, you just gotta stand your ground a little bit, and yeah.
Yeah, you got to stand your ground because, like, you're not their baby girl no more. Like,
We
especially once you get out of college. First of all, you're an adult when you come in college. Once you get out of college, like, you really got to start making your own decisions because
Mhm,
you realize, like, hey, it's my life and like my life is
mhm.
the sum of my choices. So I might as well do what I feel drawn to do and what I love to do. But we got to talk about career. So we did that people section. We got to talk a little about career, and I want to talk about the engineering. Dun dun dun. Yes, I want to. I want to talk about the engineering because I have to, but also because I want to. So for some reason, you find yourself in engineering, the practical choice. I ain't mad at it, right?
Mhm,
Engineering as a creative, not unheard of. But not the most common path either.
mhm.
Why engineering? Like, what were the factors that led you toward that choice?
Just my dad. That's it.
Oh
Just
yeah.
living like, "Oh, stable life." Also, the first line of my novel is like, um growing up as well, I said African at the time. I should have just changed it to like Nigerian, but growing up as a Nigerian um person in America, you have a couple choices for your life: an engineer, doctor, lawyer. I forget that
Mm.
you're Nigerian. And I think that's literally what his premise was for any of his children's life. It's like, yeah, we're gonna do that. I think I chose one of like more like leaning towards the most harder engineering, but people could argue with that, that's probably not. I would have chose a different engineering. Like, if they had, like, more of a environmental engineering at my college, or, like, premise, like a big what's the word? I can't remember the word, but, like, a big, like, I guess, department or, prominent department of environmental engineering here, I would probably went down that path, because I think it's more easier. No one can say no that. But, yeah, it was just really my dad.
Yeah. No, the reason why I'm saying it's not unheard of is because my dad was an engineer and he also was a writer and drew and played music. So one thing I realized is a lot of engineering students are low key creative.
Creative, really?
Mhm.
Interesting.
You don't
Well,
see that.
I've met.
Not in your environment, maybe, but I see it
Yeah.
a lot. And I think it's funny because sometimes we think like creativity is at odds with engineering, but
Oh, yeah.
as time has gone on, STEM has become very synonymous with art. And yeah,
Mhm.
but I want to know, like, how did you manage, excuse me, to leverage your engineering background without like losing your creative like tendencies?
Um, I think just by I don't know. I think I just maybe take some time during like maybe reading a book. I know that doesn't like really expel my creativity, but when I read a book, I get ideas from things of my own. So reading a book, um, becoming president of a club or something that involves art. But also yeah, just doing my own little side project on the side and then sharing it with, people within my, like, I guess, engineering community and growing from there. So it's just remaining like, just trying to not also go insane because I feel like there's so many things that happen in engineering school. Like, I just gotta, like, literally go to the sauna and just be like, decompress because it gets a lot sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about something that I think a lot of people can relate to. It's like find communities that foster your creativity.
Yeah.
And I think I'll hear people say that they went to engineering school or they went to business school and they lost their creativity.
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Oh god, I hate to hear that." But the reason why is because and our environments shape who we are, they shape how we think. And I think it's great that you have a practice of seeking out spaces that validate that side of you because a lot of people would have like, "Oh, I'm here to just do engineering. I'm gonna be in all the engineering clubs. I'm gonna be tech this, tech that, and forget about my artistic interest because it's not lucrative. It's not going to get me that job at Google or at Facebook or Netflix. What like it's not going to get me where I want to go. So I need to just get rid of it. But you're like, no, I have this side of me. I know I have this side of me, and I'm going to honor it. I'm going to make sure that that side is comfortable. So even if engineering doesn't give me that, I'm going to seek out spaces that give me that. And I think that's something that a lot of creatives, especially those that have chosen more practical paths, need to do, but sometimes they don't do it, you know?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's why, I at first was thinking like that too. I should do a minor that like helps my career. So like a sustainability studies minor. I was like, yeah, people are not like the engineers are gonna love that I have this on here. But I'm like, what do you want to do? Like I want to learn more about creative writing. I remember I said I wanted to be a writer a little bit when I was in high school. Let's do some more of stuff like that. So and even taking like a dance class, which I didn't need for my major at all. I was just having so
Yeah, oh my god, like, college is so hard. When I hear people minor in something for their career, I'm like, "Go back to advising." I get rid of that minor. Do not do a minor unless it's something that you really genuinely love because
Mhm.
it's an extra amount of course requirements. And if it's not that you something that you love, like, I know people who their career or their academic career might be more like artistic and they minor in like entrepreneurship because oh like I like business but I'm primarily creative, or like for you like you did engineering, you minor something creative, like make your minor your escape from like the toughness of college. Like, it should be something that you really, really like, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
people gotta get back to that. So, I also wanna know about your experience being a Black woman in engineering and how that has influenced you, and also being a creatively talented Black woman at that. Like, did you ever have a moment where you're like, "Why am I here? Like, why am I here? Things are not connecting," or how did you always feel like things connected for you within engineering?
Yeah, I think um I do go to PWI, but I definitely have said like had moments where I like realized there's like only maybe two or three black people in the room, or maybe four. Let's increase that. Four people in the room that are black, perhaps. And then even less than that that are probably a woman. Um, so I do realize it. I don't think I try to let it control me, but it does affect me sometimes when I think about group projects and like I'm gonna try and team up with someone who perhaps looks like me. Um, but that's not all the case that like you think like I'm gonna team up with someone that looks like you and whatever, but they also can maybe exhibit qualities that anyone could have that like maybe makes you like not feel like I guess wanted in a group or whatever. But yeah, I think just really like just being aware of my surroundings and aware of like who I team up with and who I maybe go for questions that does a little bit add to my engineering degree happenings.
Yeah. I understand that because when it comes to the group projects, it's about your grade. Like it's about your
Mhm,
grade and who you partner with. It can be the difference between your ideas being respected and the project reflecting, a portion of your insight, your competence versus your ideas not being respected, your diversity not being acknowledged, and the project being worse as a result because, studies do show more diverse teams do better. But for some reason, when it comes to group projects, we like to partner up with people that I've been out of college for a while, but we like to partner up with people that are different from us, or not
mhm,
different, excuse me, that are like us. And it's
mhm.
like, oh, well, we hang out outside of this. I guess, no, this is a group project, y'all. Take the feelings out of it. Let's get it done. Let's get that grade. Let's keep it moving. But I understand what you're saying in that. I like that you said that you don't let it affect you because one thing I'm concerned about for I think Black people in PWI spaces, particularly STEM spaces, is the hyper visibility does affect a lot of people. And I've spoken to people on this podcast who said that they were affected by it. And I think that it's great that you said like there are times where you think about it, but it's not your primary focus. Cause I honestly feel like when we think about our hyper visibility, it takes away our attention from being able to do what we need to do, what we come to school to do, which is learn. But what have your experiences taught you like overall about like diversity and representation in STEM?
Yeah, yeah, that we definitely need more of it, and that we need to yeah, there's definitely still more efforts that can be, I guess, made and done. I remember I was working on this, like, school class project in terms of diversity in STEM and what could be what could be done, and I know, like, I suggested this idea of something like, the some sort of program that's like a path to get young, um, Black people, interested in being like, in the academic space as maybe, like, a professor or other, like, faculty type of vibe. That's not, like, the right sentence, but,
Mhm.
um, get them interested in being, like, a faculty and professor in the academic world. But, yeah, there's definitely more things that can be done. Yeah, and I'm just glad that I get to graduate and I don't have to see that in academic, but I probably will see it in corporate.
Yeah. Woo. Corporate is another beast. Corporate is definitely another beast, y'all. But through all of this, you remain creatively inspired. And furthermore, you wrote a book, right? The Beautiful Math of Coral, connecting STEM and art. Tell us about your book, which by the way, is in my Amazon cart. So I want to read and I'm going to read it. Um, and what you learned while creating it.
Yeah. I definitely wait, so to explain what it's about, the BFF. Yeah, the BFF of Coral is primarily set in college, following two characters, Coral and Fernando, as they discover a bit about themselves, the love that they share with each other, but a little bit more about the universe and how they're related to that. So I weave in different aspects of nature, and like the universe and tech, but I do like this cool thing where I do like some sort of poetic storytelling where I take these concepts and I relate them to home, friendship, family, and the feeling of belonging. And I create a story out of that. And I really learned a lot through that process about being able to take these characters and develop them and really fall in love with them and hopefully have people fall in love with them too and give them qualities that make you question like why are they that way? But perhaps it's because of, X, Y, and Z. And yeah, really just understanding the psyche of creating that character and putting them in a world and taking that knowledge and putting it into another story that I can work on.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I didn't even know that there was like a love aspect. Okay, so so now I gotta get ready for a love story. Okay, because I didn't know that there was a love and romance aspect, but no, you're taking these things. And once again, I talked about like exceptionally creative people, like being able to bridge worlds. You're bridging this world that a lot of people haven't seen bridged before. We can call STEM STEAM and we can add A in it, but art and science have been kept largely separate. and Science
Mhm.
and Love. I remember oh my God, there was a Nicola Yoon book that I read years ago, and it was made into a movie with Yara Shahidi, and the girl was
Yes,
like a scientist. I don't know if you know which one I'm talking about,
yeah, yeah.
but it's she wrote everything, and then she wrote another
The sun is
book.
also a star.
The Sun is Also a Star, yes, and I was, like, hooked because I was like, "Wait, wait, wait," and it wasn't even, like, STEMmy, but it gave me insight into a thinking pattern and process that we
Mhm.
rarely would see with Black female protagonists, and, very left-brained, but also that she found a way to make that character very creative, so I think, like, bridging the gap, it can give people these transformative experiences where you are talking about STEM, you are talking about art, but you're also talking about love, like, there's a lot going on and college. So it creates a stage for people where they can learn more about themselves, but also learn these topics. So do you think that like art and STEM are complementary? Like, why do you think that these subjects are often like separated in educational systems?
Yeah, I think it's really I think it comes down to it being regarded as STEM, it I guess not as STEAM as what people are trying to push out. Um, I think when I think back in the day when I think of STEM, I definitely think of more like research and like the Pythagorean theorem, but what you wouldn't necessarily call that art firsthand. But if you could like poetically take the pieces of what those things are, which I know sounds crazy, and it's in a way form of art because I don't know. I think we go about our life a little bit like a Pythagorean theorem. I don't know. There's like the addition. There's the other. I don't know. I think like that sometimes, which is weird, but I think that's why perhaps. But there's aspects now that are happening where we may use some sort of technology or program to uh maybe do like some sonar technology of maybe some waves, and then someone like presents their research and shows how, wow, doesn't this look like art the way like I was able to sort of scan this sort of map of some water flowing through air, and that becomes theoretically art in its way. But I think there's definitely more ways that we are integrating art in STEM, and I think a little bit that is like 3D printing and um yeah, some more spaces like that are happening that helps people see that there is art in STEM. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And perfect segue. That's your work. That's what you do through Ozie Studios, right? So tell me about, and by the way, y'all, the book and the short film were produced through the studio. So that's really amazing that you're able to be young, like have your creative talents and build with them because I think that's amazing. So tell me about your decision to start your own company, like bridging art, tech, and entertainment, and why an innovation studio. And also like what projects do you plan to institute in the future?
Yeah. So I developed the Ozie Studio. I would like to say I developed it 2022 because I think before 2021 it was just really I have a bug, but then I think I realized I could do more with
Mm,
what I have and like my knowledge and more knowledge that I would gain. And so I turned that into Yasa Studios. And I definitely I'm framing it as nature, tech, universe, and art because I think when we hear those words versus STEM, like, I don't know, it just feels like STEM it feels like it's for kids, but I think that's probably the reason why it doesn't feel like tangible or approachable um, in like adult years. But there's many aspects to nature, and tech and art that keep me, I think can turn into a story for adults. And you're seeing that right now, actually, really with Beyonce Renaissance. She had so many themes of like science and like the universe inside her thing. I thought that was really really dope and really cool. And of course, she's not like, oh, this is my Renaissance STEM tour. Like it's just my Renaissance tour, but we got those themes. So that's something similar of what I'm doing. And I really don't like when people like, you're doing STEM. Like, no, I'm not. I'm reframing that. So let's when you tell your buddy, please don't tell him STEM. But I definitely wanted to create a place where I can blend ideas. I think in the future, I'm creating like this graphic novel right now. Um, and that involves like two different sides, like the art side and a science side to that get to be blended. And right now I actually just finished developing the feature full length script of Coral World from the Wild, which is the feature full length script of the beautiful map of Coral, but I called it something different. And I created this TV pilot. And I'm just right now just workshopping that and hopefully sending that to different agents and whatnot.
Yeah, listen. Woo! I Everything I heard sounds fire. And what I have to say is, I love the fact that you understand, number one, like, I feel like being a grown up is learning that school might separate us into, oh, art class, science class, etc., math class. But growing up is realizing that all of the subjects exist at every single intersection. Even in creative fields, there's such a need for a mathematical and scientific
Mhm.
understanding, right? To really produce breakthrough and groundbreaking results. And I think that your path is showing like you can take from different disciplines, you can blend it to create something new, to create something impactful. But I also want to talk about the innovation, like studio aspect, because what I'm realizing is that someone who has talked to many different entrepreneurs on here, some entrepreneurs actually do better with a company that allows them to create different output. So, like work on projects versus on a pointed startup solving a particular problem. So I think that like, has it ever came into your mind to like, oh, start a startup or like solve a particular problem? Or do you think you're more like broad, like I want to create through a factory mindset, almost like create a
Mhm.
factory type of vibe?
Yeah, I think definitely for my creative work, I definitely lean towards that more factory mindset of I'm just gonna create these different projects. And I think it's similar to I don't know what type of entrepreneur. I guess a serial entrepreneur. They have many different businesses and they start and they do. Maybe one doesn't work out, but they just shut it down and continue with their other ones. But I definitely think I have that serial entrepreneur mindset. But I guess just primarily for this one company, Ozie Studios, I definitely have that mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we gotta start learning like everybody's a different type of entrepreneur because like
Mhm.
people could see one person and say, oh, they're doing too much. No, they're not doing too much. They're doing their style, which is project
Yeah.
based, initiative based, focused on launching. I call it the factory mindset. Like you
Mhm.
want to produce things. Issa Rae's the same way through Hooray. Like she produces things, she movies, film, Via Ray, the Prosecco line. Like she's a producer of
Yeah.
things. And I
No.
think that, like, when you have that creative energy, you can't fight it. You cannot fight it. Like, the law of thermodynamics, you can't fight what's inside of you. So
Yeah.
it's gonna come out, and you're right, like, it's a serial entrepreneurship, but it's rooted in creativity, and I think
Mhm.
that that's amazing. So we coined a new type of entrepreneurship. Okay, so I always like to ask people one final question that, like, speaks to who they are. So the culture segment is really about the societal impact that we want to have or that you want to have. And you talked in the pre-call about like faith and like you going where the spirit is leading you. Cause I hear that. And this is the second time I've heard that in a row. And I'm like, okay, there's a lesson that I need to learn, this lesson that we as the listeners need to learn. So like, tell me about the role that your faith plays in your career and the decisions you make regarding like which projects.
Mm. Yeah, I think I really just trust like my intuition. I just like follow my intuition. I actually had like a dream like maybe like 1 week ago where oh gosh, I feel like I want to get my phone so I can like say what it said. But
If you want
it
to.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, well it was a dream where at the time I was questioning what I should be doing for this new oh my what I should be doing for this new project that I shelved like about a year ago. But then I was still thinking about it, which means like maybe you should be doing something more about that, Ijeoma. And it was a dream where let me pull it up. Um, okay, I was like traveling to finish this Finding Dory thing. That's what I said in my notes. And I was the original writer behind it, but I was unsure if I was credited on it. But I was watching to see people celebrate it. I just wish people believed in my idea at the first go around instead of waiting to see the project come to full fruition later and have people celebrate it. At the time, I was wondering if I had executive producer status on the project or else I would sit. Anyway, that's not like, I guess that ending part was not part of the dream, but I had the dream where like I was waiting to see people celebrate something that I was thinking about. And so it was like for me, I felt like it was like what I was doing at like, when people like this thing that I haven't really fully produced out, will they like it? But I haven't even produced it. So it was just like, for me, it was like, go ahead and do the thing. You'll see people's reactions later. Of course, not all reactions are, will be the best, but just do the thing and do your full part out for that and see where it goes. But like that was, I guess, aligned to me, like following my faith and following my intuition and not letting other people's like, well, I guess their words of how I should lead my life get to me. I don't know. And I guess I pray like every day, and journaling also helps me, I feel like, connect to my intuition, but also I thank God and the angels that perhaps watch over me. Um, yeah, just going where my intuition tells me, and yeah, and my gut especially too. Yeah.
Powerful. Because what I will say is I speak on this podcast to creators, entrepreneurs, anybody tasked with building something or creating something new. And what I need people to learn is it is more of an intuitive process than an analytical one. Because you
Mm,
can overthink yourself out of your gifts. And I've seen it time and time again. And I think especially when we're young, like we need to stop obsessing over the first thing being like the best thing. And we need to actually start learning through doing, like learn entrepreneurship through doing entrepreneurship, learn creativity through doing your creative, whatever avenue or medium you choose. Like learn film through making films, learn YouTube through making video. Like we can't just theoretically like imagine ourselves into things. We have to just sometimes go with your gut. Like it doesn't always make sense. It really doesn't
yeah.
always make sense. And I think like, especially like, I don't know if you grew up Christian, like I grew up Christian. Sometimes the spirit is just going to tell you, do this. And you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, God, it looks crazy. I feel crazy. They're going to say another project. What? I feel nuts. But I've learned like step out in faith and if you have the will to do it, trust that God will not tell you to do something that you will completely burn at. If you do fail, you learn and you can use that for other things. So I've had to
Mm,
learn to stand tall. In my gifts because it can be so hard to do that given
mhm.
that we overthink or we wonder, is this right for me? Am I supposed to do this? But I love the fact that you're like, hey, you journal, you pray about it, you understand, and from there you do you do what needs to be done. You do what needs to be done.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also, like, I remember the story about Yvonne Orji. She was on Insecure, and she talked about how she was in her room one night and, like, I guess she was crying, I'm not sure what, but she was like, "What should I do?" And she heard, like, a spirit, or when I say, "Do comedy," or something like that. It was interesting because I do think people receive, like, messages that way too. They just hear, like, that they should be doing something, they and
We do, and sometimes it comes in the form of closed doors too. Like sometimes,
Mm,
like I talk to a lot of people who they'll tell me like my own story. I started this
mhm,
podcast on a whim. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who the guests were going to be. I didn't know who, and then I just started meeting people, and now the podcast is like a thing now. That was one thing that God just told me start it. I did it right. I just did it without even thinking, and now it's becoming a thing. But I also do hear people talk about closed doors. Like sometimes you close doors and doors are closed on you. Like you don't get that job in that industry. Full-time employment doesn't work out. Maybe the grad school applications don't land. You don't get into any of the programs you wanted to get into, or maybe no programs. And in these moments, I've learned that like rejection is redirection. And sometimes the spirit, like literally the Holy Spirit or whatever spirit that you believe in, guides us away from things through rejection, through like doors closing. And you're like, man, I wanted this opportunity, but it's like, no, like you have a different purpose. And I need you to exercise that. I'll tell people my story all the time that I wanted to have a full-time job after graduation. my purpose was to be an entrepreneur, to be, a social entrepreneur, do the work that I do these sort of things. And it's harder. Like it's harder to do the purposeful path, but what I realize is it's rewarding and it's worth it. So I'm glad that you have that connection to self because so many people in engineering, business, these sort of subjects, we become so analytical that we lose that connection to like, what is my intuition telling me?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So that was it. That was it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very, very excited, Ijeoma, to have you.
Thank you.
It was amazing. So thank you. Thank you to the guests for listening. And yeah, we are out, y'all. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.